Hi everyone, welcome to Frankenstein's Fabrics Mystery Block 12. This is our May block, a little bit late, but still coming to you from Frankenstein's Fabrics. So what I'm going to talk to you before we get started with everything is I just wanted to do a quick run through of the blocks we've done so far. So if you've caught up and you've done the first 4 blocks, so January through to April, and you've finished them and you've decided on your colours for this May block, you might want to lay the blocks out and have a look and then think about your colours going forward. So I've got my 4 blocks here. So our checkerboard, where I used the plain orange in the light orange and my cats with the grey background. The circle applique with the medium pink. My rail fence with all of my plains, and my snowball with my pink and white, and that's my darkest pink. So I'm sort of thinking at this stage, the block that I'm going to show you today, which is our plus block, I'm also going to do in plains, but I'm going to do my lightest pink with my black because I want a high contrast on this block. Now there's also a couple of different measurements with this one because a plus block, there's a few different versions. So most of you will be familiar with this one. And there's also this one where it's a lot narrower. So depending on how you want your plus block to look, you need to decide the width of your cutting. So in order to do that, I'm going to show you the standard plus, and then I'm going to give you measurements for the tiny plus. But at the same time, you also need to consider, like if you were doing this block for a full quilt, you would want your plus block to be the traditional one so that you've got the secondary pattern happening and you've got your plus block showing up with your main fabric and your secondary fabric. However, if you're just doing a one-off block, you can do whichever version you want because you're not looking for a secondary pattern here. We're just looking for the shape of the plus or the cross, whatever you want to call it. So I will get all of this prepped and we will go to cutting. Okay, so here I have my 2 fabrics and all I need from each of them is a 4.5 inch strip. So I've already straightened up the edge on my pink, placing it on my mat, finding the 4.5 inch marking on my ruler, lining it up with the folded edge on a solid line, fingers in the middle for some light pressure on the ruler, and 1 cut. Fabric is starched and ironed with crisp because I am out of Mary Ellen's at the moment, and I am waiting to go and sort all of that out. So do the same thing for your strip of black. Now I'm just going to straighten this up. Now any of the white marks you can see on my fabric is just the crisp. So once again, the 4.5 inch mark, solid line on the fold, fingers, light pressure and cut. Okay, so now at this point, what you need to do is you need to decide whether your dark fabric, so in this case my black, or the light fabric, the pink, is going to be the center of my cross. Now, I think I want the pink to be the cross. I want it to stand out. If I was doing the narrow version, I'd probably do the black as the cross. Now I'm just trimming the selvages off because there's lots of holes from the manufacturing of this fabric in this, and I don't want any of them to turn up in my quilt. So, because we're going to be doing the pink as the center, I'm going to use the black as the outer color. So what you need here is 4 4.5 inch squares. So the straight edge where you trim the selvages off on the 4.5 inch mark, and just cross cut 4 squares. Now this is a double layer, so I'm getting the squares out of 2 cuts. I don't have to worry about. So I've got my 4 squares. Now there is something here that I would like to point out, and you've probably noticed it in some of the fabrics you've bought. It's usually homespun. You can see this, what looks like a flaw. If you actually got close to it, you could see it's like a bit of thread. It's actually a bit of plastic. I don't know what causes it or what the actual reasoning for it is, but it is a tiny little piece of plastic fiber. Now what you can do, you get a really sharp instrument. So I've got my tailor's awl here. You can actually, and you may need a pair of magnifying glasses for this as well, you can actually get it out of your fabric, because it's just sitting there in the weave. It's not doing any damage to the fabric. Sorry, I'm migrating over. So then what you can do is you can just grab it with your fingers or a pair of tweezers, and you can pull it out. And once you get it out, your fabric's just black. So if you spot anything like that, you should be able to get it out. Okay, so then our next bit is we need to cut the squares for our plus. So we're actually going to be cutting 2 squares, 4.5 inch, so same as the black. So 2. And then we want a 12.5 inch rectangle. So I'm going to use the mat to do this. 12.5. So I've just got the edge of my, I don't know if you can see that, oh yeah, you can on the camera, the edge of my fabric lined up on the edge of my mat, so on that line. So my mat starts at 0 here and goes up to 18 inches. And then I want to come across here to the 12.5 inch mark with my ruler, and that's my rectangle. So that's all the cutting we have to do. So I will set up now and we will go to the sewing machine and do the next step. Okay, so here we are set up at the machine. My machine is threaded with black thread because this is my darkest fabric. I have a Universal 80/12 needle in there. It's a Schmetz brand. My machine is a Memorycraft 7700 QCP. It's a Janome. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sew 1 black square to 1 pink square with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to chain piece these because I hate wasting thread. So 1 pink to 1 black. One pink to 1 black. Now, as you can see, I'm not using pins. I am not a pinner. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this one apart but leave the other one on the machine, and this is why I like chain piecing. I'm then going to open this up, pop another black square here and attach it. Then I'm going to cut the one off the back and do the same. And this is purely because this is how I am faster at sewing, because I just I keep that chain piecing going and it's just a lot more efficient with the thread. I'm not cutting ends all the time. Okay. So now I have my 2 stratas with my 3 pieces here. So I'm just going to press the seams to the black because it's the darker fabric, and then I'll come back and join the center. Okay, so here we have the blocks pressed, the strips pressed, sorry. So all I'm going to do now is flip one over. So right sides together. If you've got a fabric with a right side, if you don't worry, it's just make sure it's the correct side for whatever fabric you're using. So if you've got a print, it'll be right sides together. If you're using plains like I am with homespun, it doesn't matter unless there's something really obvious about it. So 1/4 inch seam, and just and then open it up and repeat for the other side. Now if you notice your seam allowance is a bit out, you may have to check your seam allowance on your machine. So if you find that it's a little bit, you need more of a scant, you can change your needle position. You may need to look at the foot. So I'm using a foot with a guide. Maybe my guide's slightly bent or something like that. Okay, that's the block. We are done. So I'll just press these seams and we'll set up on the last bit and we're good to go. Make sure you trim your threads. Don't want them getting in the way. And if you've got any fraying happening, just trim those off as well. Don't want them getting all over the place. Okay, so here is our plus block all ready to go. I'm just going to pop his label on like the others. And as you can see now, with my blocks, we're starting to get a sense of the colours that are happening. And that way we can see that we've picked some colours that are brighter or more contrast or busier. So this one's like a much busier block, whereas when we've got a couple of plainer ones here. So have a look at all of your fabrics now that you've done a few blocks, and then you'll be able to gauge what you're going to do as we move forward with the remaining blocks for the year. So if you have any questions about the plus block or any of the other blocks that we've done previously, let me know. You can post a comment below on the YouTube channel. You can comment on the listing in the group. You can send me a text message or an email. All the details will be below in the description. If you need any help with anything other than the blocks with this, just let me know, and we will see you next time for June. Hopefully it won't be late this time, but some things are happening in my life that have kind of derailed my regular schedule, so I will let people know once I know a bit more information about what's going on. So I hope you've enjoyed this block today. The measurements and the instructions will be in a file in the group as always, and I will pop in the extra information about changing the sizes on the plus block so you could do a narrower version if you choose. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.